Hey everyone, Blair Reynolds here, and today we have Michelle McCullough. And there is a lot going on with this woman. This is somebody that you are going to want to watch, not only because she's been successful in the past, but she has this momentum going in her life and in her businesses that I can assure you, you will want to pay attention to. And just a little bit of a shout out, one of the companies that she is working with and she is directing is Startup Princess, and it has 266,000 Twitter followers as of today. And if you have any idea of how big that is, especially for an entrepreneur website, especially for that kind of a venue, it's incredible. So Michelle, thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, the first thing I want to get into is actually more of a personal side to you, which is how did you get into business and why is this an interest of yours?
Well, in some ways, I call myself an accidental entrepreneur. I was working for an advertising agency when I was 19. My background is in marketing and advertising, and that's what I was studying at school. So I found a job at an advertising agency where I was going to school. And one of our clients was looking for promotional products. And so back then, I know this makes me sound really old, but there wasn't really the internet. I mean, the internet existed.
What's that? Is that a new thing? Is that hot?
Like 15, yeah, it was like, Al Gore invented it, but
Mhm.
we're in there. I'm kind of typing on the internet trying to find some things and doing a search. And I found this guy who sold promotional products in the Midwest, and he was starting to talk to me, helped me with some proposals for clients, and then said, you know what, you could sign up and do this and make the commissions, and I'd be happy to
Mm.
help you do that. And so at the time, I kind of started what I call Doodad's promotional products as kind of a need and something that needed
Mhm.
to happen right then and there. And I didn't really expect to enjoy it or to keep it going. I kind of
Yeah.
expected just to take care of the client's needs and move on. But it was still a great part of marketing and I liked it. And so now it's still running. And so I still have Doodad's promotional products. And though I've done lots of other things since and have killed other businesses since, that one has hung on for dear life.
Mm.
And it's been one of the things that I enjoy, and I'm emotionally attached to it. I probably shouldn't be, but it's my first business,
Okay.
and
It's never gonna die. This is
it's never
huge.
gonna die.
Yeah.
And it doesn't bring in the most revenue now from other things that I do, but it's been operational. It's run in the black every year since its inception. It
Great.
has
Man, that's
awesome clients, and
fantastic.
so that's how I first got started in business.
Hmm. And I know that you've gone and you've adapted and you've pivoted a number of times in your business, but you do have that thread of entrepreneurship and business development, and you've taught and mentored a lot of people. Not only have you mentored, but you've also been mentored by, because I've seen the people you follow, and it's a lot of very impressive people. So let's talk about that. So when you are working with entrepreneurs, you're working with people that are getting into that startup realm. What are the things that you're paying attention to, and what are the things that you start to talk to them about?
Well, it's interesting because I work with people in lots of different phases of business. And though through Startup Princess, we do work with a lot of entrepreneurs that are just getting started, I help people in every aspect, whether they're trying to take their business to the next level, whether they've been in business for 10 years or 2 years. But I think that the same rules apply, that when I'm talking to people, I really care about the boring stuff that nobody wants you to care about. Like, I care about your business plan and what it looks like. And not that it has to be like a really big detailed thing, but I tell my clients all the time, I know that it can elicit audible groans anytime I say the word plan, but it's so true in business that plan is the four-letter word for success. So whether
That's a
you're
great
just getting
statement.
started or you're growing or whatever that is, trying to figure out what's viable, what's not. What can I do on my own? What do I need other people to come in for? How am I going to market? Who's going to be involved in my business? What does my infrastructure look like? And again, it doesn't have to be a 20-page document, but even just sitting down and brainstorming some of those things with your team, with a coach or a mentor, or with somebody who can help you, will help you set the framework and kind of set the foundation in your business that will really help you be successful. So that's my first number one tip, is just sitting down,
Hmm.
doing some planning, strategizing, and making sure that you're headed in the direction that you really want to go.
Well, let's talk about the alignment with businesses and the business owner. So, do you
Okay.
ever get into, does it feel right? Is this what you're supposed to do? Because I maybe I'm just projecting this onto you, but I run into a lot of business owners, and a lot of times I'm like, really? Why did you decide to do this since you
Yeah.
don't even like anything to do with this business? And I'm just curious how you relate the individual and you start working with the individual as well as their business.
Well, I think that's a really tricky thing. Like, for example, my promotional products business, there's nothing about it that I am super passionate about.
Hmm.
Like, I don't lay awake at night and go, oh my gosh, I get to imprint on pens for a living.
Why
I mean, some
not?
people are living their passion, and
Hmm.
imprinting pens is not necessarily it. But the passion for it with me is that I like the lifestyle it provides. I like the margins that I have. I like that it gives me the ability to travel. I like that it gives me the opportunity to own my schedule and do what I
Hmm.
want to do in that space. And obviously, things are different with Startup Princess and even with my speaking business, and those are different structures. But I use that example because sometimes the passion isn't necessarily about what you're doing, but it's about what it provides you.
Yeah.
But in other cases, like you said, I see lots of people who are doing things, and I'm like, why are you doing this now? And I guess the thing that I would say is it's okay to change your mind. It's
Hmm.
okay to say this isn't what I thought it was going to be and walk away, and to own that in a space of saying, you know what, my future I thought was going to look like this. Now that I'm doing it, it's not what I thought. A lot of people get into entrepreneurship because they think it's going to be never working, sitting by
Hmm.
the side of the
Yeah.
pool, sipping your favorite beverage while other people are doing the work for you. And in reality, that can happen, but years down the road with a lot of work and a lot of infrastructure in place and a lot of systems. And so we quit our corporate job and go work for ourselves thinking it's going to be roses and cherries, and then it ends up being a lot of work. And it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to change your course, and it's okay to change your business. And it just makes sure that you are following that passion, because entrepreneurship is a rough road,
Hmm.
and if you aren't in it for the right reasons, then you'll find yourself crashing and burning faster than anything else.
Yeah. And that can happen, and that does happen. And let's talk about the developmental process for an entrepreneur. So that learning curve process, because I don't want people to be caught unaware, because there is this, I would even call it almost blueprint prototype that happens with all entrepreneurs, where they go through this learning curve, and it usually looks like these happen in this order. And there's an element of you have to stick to it in certain times when you don't want to, and you actually need to jump ship at times that you may not have expected. So I'm just curious, from your experience and you're working with people, how do you help them with that process, and how can you give them a little bit of forecasting for here's what to expect when you're getting into a business, in particular when you're starting one of your own?
Right. Well, I think that you bring a lot of good things to light, and I'm a huge fan of systems and processes. And I feel like the best part and the best thing that you can do if you're just getting started and you want to make sure that you're doing the right thing and you want to carry on and you don't want your business to fail, putting those systems in place, just like having a business plan, having an operations manual, even if you're kind of doing it as you go, but putting that system in place. I love the book, The E Myth by Michael
Yeah,
Gerber,
it's a good book.
which is so good, which is great. I recommend it to all of my startup clients. Like, read this, really get to understand the operational back end piece. But part of that is also just, um, and that's why I'm a huge fan of getting help and finding
Mm,
mentors and finding people to help you. Because one of the things, like, I used to laugh at people that had coaches and saying, if you can't do things
yes.
yourself,
Yeah,
maybe you
I
have a bigger
understand.
problem. But what I found out when I found coaches is that they help me get there faster and they
Yeah.
help me avoid mistakes. And in a lot of cases, if you're working with the right mentor or right coach for you, it can help you see things and avoid circumstances. Like, there are some parts of my business I can tell people, don't do that. I promise, please don't do that, because I
That
made that
is
mistake.
it's a waste of money. It is a waste of
Yeah,
time.
don't.
Listen.
Yeah, just don't. Like, if I could shake people about the head and shoulders, I
Hmm.
would. But that's why I like getting help, finding a mentor, whether you pay for someone or you find someone or you're getting help from the small business
Hmm.
development center in your area. Get help so that you can get to success faster instead of making all the mistakes that everyone else has made. And you can
Yeah.
avoid those by getting help, getting the learning, and always keeping up on that so that you avoid those things as they come along.
Hmm. So, what are some resources? You mentioned the E-Myth, but what are some resources that have been invaluable to you that you can say, ugh, invest in this, and you will get a return on your investment, both personally and professionally?
E-myth is great, but this is a principle that I think applies everywhere. It's what I call plasticity, and people are like, I don't understand what that means, but plasticity is, for me, two things. It's number one, being moldable, like
Hmm.
being open to what people have to tell you, recognizing that other people might have some insights that are valuable, being open to those things. Now, I'm all about being passionate as an entrepreneur and wanting you to do things a certain way because you want it to be a unique process, a unique product, and so please infuse passion there, but be moldable to learn things that other people might be able to provide you. But part of that plasticity is also keeping up and keeping up with the industry, your
Hmm.
specific industry that you're in. business itself, marketing itself, and creating that system and routine. Like for me, I have time that I do research and reading every single week because I want to keep up. I want to stay up with marketing trends. I want to stay up with business
Hmm.
trends. And reading a book like The E-Myth is great. But there are lots of other books like The Lean Startup, which is awesome for
Great book.
people who are just getting started. So just find those resources and be willing to learn and infuse plasticity into your life because it's just as important as profit and loss statements and
Hmm.
making sure that you're marketing to your customers.
Yeah, and I think you did say something that was very important, which is you do need to learn first in the way that it's done in your industry what's successful. And I think a lot of especially beginning entrepreneurs that haven't matured enough yet, they will look at a situation and they say, "Hey, I'm going to break the mold. I'm going to be a maverick. I'm going to come in here and take the whole thing by storm." The reality is the most people that make it look like they're a maverick or make it look like they're being innovative, they actually understand the industry inside and out. They understand exactly what they're doing. They know when to pivot. They know when to basically take a curve from what everybody is doing, and they understand the gaps in the market, which is why they're successful. It
Yeah.
also is why they make it so effortlessly look like they're being a renegade or this new brand on the block. And I think that's something that's missed for a lot of younger entrepreneurs.
Yes.
So, so let's talk about how you went on your journey and I love this question and I hope I don't ask it too much on this website, but it's the idea of the wisdom that helped us to become who we are and helps us make the decisions that we make. So, who is a mentor of yours that has said something that has stuck with you, either a story or a one or two liner that lets you know, hey, here's kind of my litmus test and here's something that I've kept with me as I'm building businesses.
Well, my story immediately that comes to mind is when I was about 14 or 15, I had a youth leader that was awesome.
Hmm.
And she was super involved in everything that I did and was always very helpful and supportive. And I remember one time going to her and complaining and saying, I don't think I can do this. There are other girls who are
Hmm.
smarter. And I think I was trying out for something at school, something silly. But, as a teenager, it affected me and I wanted it. And she said, Michelle, don't worry about what anybody else thinks. You need to go out there and make it happen. And throughout my life, I've seen how make it happen has been a through line for me,
That's
and how
good.
so many times, like if I want to do something, and what I love about successful entrepreneurs is that there are those who dream and there are those who do. And
Hmm.
there are those who set out specific goals, and there are those who actually make them happen. And so, when it comes to entrepreneurship and starting a business or growing a business, like if you've got big dreams, don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it, and don't let anyone pull you down and say, "Oh, come on, honey, let's be a little bit more realistic."
Hmm.
You own that and own your life and own your future, and ultimately make it happen by the actions that you take every single day. And so, for me, it's become a life mantra. And I don't own make it happen. Lots of people use it, and
Sure.
that's fine. But for me, it's been such a through line. And anytime I think, "Oh, I can't do that," I just think, "Come on, Michelle, you got this. Make it happen."
Make it happen. I
Yeah.
like that because I can't tell you how much you run into people that are working really hard on something that'll never come to light. They are
Yes.
perpetual learners, they're perpetual builders. Their runways are so long that the plane never takes off. And
Yes.
there's a reality that you actually just have to take off sometimes. We were talking about sites and businesses that we've been working on that in reality you can't have that perfect thing out of the gates. You just don't, you never will. So at some point you just have to make it happen. You just have to build that thing. You just have to go public. And there is a humility to that because then you can have the potential of being rejected, having your products rejected, or having them be accepted, and sometimes success is just as difficult. But the reality is you must launch, and that way you have the data necessary to pivot and be successful. So I'm going to switch streams just a little bit, and this goes back to you, and I hope you can bear with us in being a little bit vulnerable. Can you tell us about, yeah, right? Surprise.
Right.
Can you tell us about a time in business that was frankly just brutal? We all go through them. It was painful, personally or professionally, and a silver lining that you learned from that situation, something that you took away from it that you can share with us.
Sure. I had a business, like the second business that I started, that I thought was going to really make me millions of dollars.
Mm.
Like I could see in my head that it was going to be me sitting by the side of the pool, sipping my favorite
Yep,
beverage,
2 hours a
like
day,
where in the world,
delegated
right?
out everything.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Things went south really fast, and they went
Mm.
south for a couple of reasons. And I don't necessarily blame one thing, but I got involved in some things with some friends. I brought some
Yeah.
friends in to help and partner with me, and that was a mistake. And I don't think that all friend business mistakes are mistake, but that particular chemistry was wrong.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking that because I had involved some people and brought them in as part owners to help work through some things, that I had to make a decision that, and I don't like it's not personal, it's business. Like, people talk about that all the time. Like, it's not personal, it's business.
It's always
You know,
personal.
yeah, it's
You
always
always feel it.
personal. It
Yeah.
is always personal.
I know.
But I just remember that experience being hard, and wanting to navigate things appropriately, and wanting to get out of the business where I needed to, and not wanting to hurt anybody's feelings, and but also knowing that I couldn't continue on that path and continue investing in money
Mhm.
that was not working, and business wise just wasn't a fit.
Yeah.
And I remember in that instant that there's two ways to do this. I can either burn a bunch of bridges
Mhm.
and just cut clean, or I can do it the right way and still figure out how to salvage relationships and continue to make people happy. And I realized that business is all about relationships. It's not about being personal. It's about the relationships that you have, and figuring out how to sever that in a way that was good has
Yep.
saved me in lots of other areas. And because of that experience, and that I wasn't willing to just say, "Oh, it's business," and walk away, I've had two other business ventures that have come about with people that I worked with that would never have happened if I
Mm.
hadn't figured out how to cull it cleanly and put people first. And so I think that's just something I've always learned, is that the things that we sell, whether it's products or services, that business really is personal, and figuring out how to continue on in a way that doesn't hurt people, or I mean, I don't necessarily believe in karma, but I think the principle is there. I think that you get back from life what you put into it, and if you're always making it what's best for you, that when you need those people later, they're not there.
Absolutely. Well, I like a topic that you brought up, which I think is a 5-hour discussion topic, but I think you're pretty good at being concise. So I'll ask it, which comes down to chemistry, because partnerships often are about chemistry. And I think a lot of people get into business because they say, hey, you're a great website programmer and I have this over here, let's just get together. But there are all these other variables that they're not considering. So would you introduce us to the idea of healthy chemistry and what to be looking for in partners and what to be looking out for?
Sure. And I think the first part of that is deciding, do I really need a partner or do I need an employee?
Mm-hmm. Great
And
question.
yes, and it's hard because sometimes, especially in a startup phase where you're trying to get things done and you want to bring people in and you don't have a lot of money, and so you think, oh, I'll just give them a piece of the company, or I'll give them a part of the partnership if they're willing to invest and give me some sweat equity. And I'm fine with those things, but I think that you should be clear and decide for yourself, is this a long-term partnership or is this
Mm-hmm.
meeting a short-term need? And
Yeah.
that's how you decide first, is do you want somebody there all the time, helping you make decisions, being involved, sitting around the boardroom table with you, or are they just filling a short-term need that needs to go away?
Yeah.
And then from that
Great
point,
question.
what?
That's a great question. Just that
Yes.
idea is brilliant. You can save
Is it
people,
long-term or short?
yeah, huge amounts of time.
Yes. And then also asking yourself, what do they bring to the table and what do I bring to the table? When I'm looking for a business partner, I'm looking for somebody who can fill in holes that I don't have. Like, if I'm going to bring in the analytical side, the planning side, and sometimes creativity, I know that to a certain extent creativity isn't necessarily my strength in a certain area. So I'm looking for partners who are going to complement me in that. But I'm also looking for people who are willing to have good conversations, that are open to win-win circumstances that aren't my way or the highway people.
Yeah.
And so it's not just about business sets and business skills, but it's also about personality skills and figuring out what's there. And the best thing you can do, and Kelly did this to me. So Startup Princess isn't mine. I came on to Startup Princess a couple years after its inception, and Kelly was looking for a business partner at the time. I didn't know that. But she found me and ran into me and said, hey, Michelle, I am working on this project for Startup Princess. I'd love to pay you. Will you help me with this? And we were putting on a big event. And so I worked with her for a couple of months, and then she called me back afterwards and said, that was an interview. I wanted to see if you'd like to be my business partner. And ever since she's done that, I have done that on everything, where I just invite people on for a specific project, helping me brainstorm something, even if I'm just in the inception saying, hey, I'm working through this prototype. I'd like to hire you. I can see how we work together before I put anything on paper, and then I can say, yes, this is somebody I want at my long-term table. No, this is somebody I can't work with.
Yeah, those are all really good insights, and that might be something people need to listen to over and over, especially before they get into partnerships, because just a heads up, if you're not aware of this already, is partnerships are so often tricky and toxic.
Yes.
And I want to bless them. I think there's a time and a season, but partnerships are one of those things that every advanced entrepreneur will tell you, take time to consider them very carefully. Don't necessarily not do them, but consider them carefully. And I think we'll probably end this segment with just one question, which is, a highlight of your career and something that you learned from it? Something that added to your business career, that these things came together and it made your life come alive. So can you tell us what happened and how it happened?
Oh gosh, that is a really good question. I look back and see so many celebrations and so many places in my life that I think were really good. I think one that, like, I don't know why this is coming to mind, but I've just been really extremely grateful for the press that has come
Hmm.
my way and other things that have happened. And everybody wants press. It's the
Yeah.
thing. It's that free promotion where someone else is promoting you, and you're sitting on a couch on a big TV show or getting featured in a magazine. And those are some big highlights. And I think that part of that is not necessarily because I went seeking it out, but my first advice to people who want press is just be a good company
Hmm.
first and be out there and do things, and those things will come, and those are often the celebrations where someone is validating what you're doing and saying, hey, check out this company, they're doing awesome things, and then you're on the cover of magazines and in featured in Forbes and things like that happen. But be a good company first and be a company worth watching, and knowing what that happens and how that comes about, I think I just am super grateful for those things that have come my way.
I love it. I think that that's the right way to end this segment. It's a great illustration of how you live life, which is you do things excellently and people actually notice.
Yes.
So, with that, I'm going to give a little bit of a teaser for the next segment, which is social media. Obviously, Michelle has destroyed on social media. She's been amazing. She has built this giant following. She's been so effective in that medium. And we're curious how, because I think that her answers are going to surprise you. So, stay tuned for the next segment, and you're going to really enjoy this. Thanks for being with us, Michelle.
Thank you for having me.